everyone and welcome back. In this video, we're going to build out this complete witch slider UI from scratch. It's one of the best things we've ever made on this channel and it's going to be super duper fun. So let's just get started. Alright, this is one of my favorite things I've ever built simply because the way it animates is just out of the world. Add to that the things that are animating. This is just so spooky, so eerie, so fun. Every single time I talk about UIs like these, I always end up kind of making them and uploading them after Halloween ends, so I feel like I've missed out the timing on this one as well. But more importantly, it handles a couple of really interesting UI design principles that I do want to get into in a lot of detail. For example, picking a color scheme, getting the right gradients to blend in the color scheme so they don't look too overpowering, highlight the character that you want to highlight no matter what the product may be, even if the product is scary, and ultimately work out something that works no matter what color combination you choose. Animating prototypes in Figma, using Smart Animate, getting these images to work well together, getting various Figma states to work together, and it's just one of those projects that's just super duper fun to work with. Let's just get started. Alright, if you don't yet have Figma, what are you doing? Go to figma.com/downloads, get for yourself the wonderful application that is Figma, click on design at the top. This will create a new Figma design file for you, and now we're going to start creating this UI. So the first thing we're going to do with this UI is go down to the bottom, and now I'm going to get for myself a MacBook Pro 14 frame, which is the standard frame size for most UIs ever. Now if you don't yet have the images we're using for this slider, you can go to the link in the description, get those images from my site v-vastava.com. Now that I have those images downloaded, I'm just going to import them inside of our file. So I'm just going to take all 5 of these images, drag them inside. Once I have all of my images imported, we can start working on the actual UI. Alright, so I just want to start with the first one we've got right here. We're going to duplicate this, get it right here in the center, and I know this all looks like crap right now, but I promise you, stick with me, we'll work on a couple of basic UI design principles and this is going to look truly incredible. I will make this a little bit smaller, fit it right here in the center of the screen, to the bottom, select rectangle, and now we're going to create a little rectangle exactly where we'd want the background of this character to be. Get that rectangle aligned perfectly in the center, double click on the rectangle. This is going to give us the vector of the actual rectangle. Drag our cursor to select the top 2 points, make the whole thing rounded off, and you can basically increase this value until you reach a point where it's completely rounded off, or you can enter a value yourself. I'm going to enter a super high number like 666. This is definitely going to close us off with a nice centered background. Right click and send to back. This is going to send the entirety of this to the back, and now I can make this slightly thinner. Let's just align this right here. Now that I know I don't have many changes to make in the image itself, I'm just going to lock this right here. I'm going to select this rectangle. The interesting part starts now. Since this blue of the physical witch itself is going to be central no matter what color scheme we use, now that we're approaching the color scheme, it makes sense to take colors from inside of this image, because no matter what happens, no matter what color scheme we end up choosing, this will have to fit in. And when you know the constraints, when you know this image, any image, if any product at all has to fit in, it makes sense to start getting colors from inside that would naturally match the hues of the image itself. So I'm just going to go ahead, select the color picker tool, and I'm going to get an ugly shade of blue from her skin, and we can make this slightly brighter if we want, and we're going to add a stroke to this as well. We're going to add the stroke on the inside, increase the thickness, because when you allow strokes on the inside or even outside for that matter, and you have an image already kind of going out of here, when you change this to color of significant difference, you kind of get to see a super cool superimposed kind of effect, which honestly just looks very, very clean and finished, which is why I'm just going to stick with this. Again, this whole UI was dark mode centric, so of course the background needs to be a very, very dark shade, and I'm actually quite happy with one of the colors that I found from over here. The only thing I need to do is get the rectangle, go to the stroke, change the stroke's color from black to white, just because we need this thing to stand out, and I'm going to make the thickness for this come to a 10, because who doesn't love a nice round number? Alright, I'm going to put this on the outside now, simply because we don't want it to take a lot of space on the inside, and it just started feeling like it was cramming up the space. I think this is a very case by case basis, since in this tutorial we're not talking about an exact pixel size. Since this is a more freehand, hands-on measurement system that we're doing today. And the goal with this is to get you confident in the sizes that you choose, make sure it doesn't look too weird. I think it would be interesting if you also tried the stroke situations outside, inside, and exact center. And it's kind of fun to see what you can come up with and which one looks best to you. I think I like outside the most here, simply because it gives us a lot of space with the blue. I want to make this blue just a little bit brighter because, let's be honest, it needs to be bright to let focus stay in this corner as opposed to the entirety of the dark screen that we're working with. One last thing that I need to do to get these colors to actually blend with themselves is go right here, and instead of having a plain color fill, I'm going to use a gradient fill. A gradient fill is incredible because it lets you take more than one color, blend them out, shade them out so they actually look quite good. Instead of a linear fill which goes from one line to the other, I'm going to choose a radial fill which lets me have a certain center where I can concentrate a color at. And I'm just going to get this color line to kind of go outside from right here because this is the center of where we're trying to concentrate everything at. And I'm going to switch around the colors because we wanted the dark black to be exactly where it was. And when you get Figma to give you a radial gradient on its own, the light color is somehow a lighter version of the dark color that you were working with. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the right color for you. So this additional color from Figma's side needs to be changed, and I'm going to get something that's already present in this image, try to make this a little bit brighter. And I feel like this is a really good point to stop, simply because it has the exact blue lights that we were looking for, but also it blends beautifully to what we were working with initially. And we'll make this centered a little bit. This looks good. Again, if you would go down here, you will see a little dot completely perpendicular to our actual circle, and it kind of defines the diameter of the circle itself. So it might make sense to play around with it and see what diameter works best for us. I feel like this is a perfect point to stop, and I'm just going to keep this right here. This gradient is so incredible because it serves as a kind of an aura and smooth shift from this bright jolt of a color to the dark mode that we're going to be living in. Alright, good enough. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a title, and this title is going to be in a fun font. Alright, now we're talking about the fonts we're going to use for this one. Today's font picks are quite unconventional, but they're going to be super duper fun, you guys. The first font that I'm going to talk about is the title font. It's called Frances, Fraunces, and we're going to go over to bold, make this a little bit bigger, and also I think we need italics with this one. This looks good. And this is the font family that we're using for the title of this entire thing. I feel like at this point, it just makes really good sense to have something that is sophisticated and good looking and just clean and very, very polished. With that said, now that we're starting to introduce text as well, it makes sense to kind of have the image and the rectangle both kind of grouped together in one so that they move as a specific side of the page and they just don't clutter and mess with things without having their own container unnecessarily. So we're just going to drag our cursor, select the both of them, Control G to group them both, and you can make them larger or smaller as a group. Make sure to press shift every single time you resize them as a group. Pressing shift makes sure your aspect ratio is maintained. But with that done, now we have the descriptions to write. Alright, now that we have the space to accommodate the titles and names, we're going to go to ChatGPT, and this is one of my favorite places by far to get access to sample copy. And so we're just going to describe the layout that we're building and try to get titles, descriptions, headlines, and stuff along those lines to populate our UI. So we're just going to start off with give me names, descriptions, and a headline for a blue, gold, green, red, and purple, which all need to have separate names. And hopefully this will give us something good. And immediately we see a bunch of really, really fun text descriptions and names just in line with what we're thinking about generated immediately. If I want to change something, I can do that as well. For example, I can just go in and say, give me more intriguing headlines to go in and find out more about each character, and I can get that as well. And that gives us a really, really nice group of descriptions as well. While that is happening, I'm just going to go ahead and copy the name that we have for this character, and inside of here, I'm just going to right click, paste here, and match styles, Cerulean Stormweaver. And now we can just reduce the font size to match the size that we're going for. And I'm going to make this go into two different lines, increase the font size a little bit, reduce the line height, right line everything, put it right here. And again, one really interesting thing to try is sometimes when a last name is really, really wrong, it makes sense to make the font size of the last name only slightly smaller so the whole thing gives equal visual distribution. But we're not going to do that today. This is going to be the title of this specific witch. And now we're going to get a description for ourselves as well. The font that we're using for every other piece of body text today is called Epilogue, and it's one of the more unknown fonts from the land of Google Fonts, free to use of course, but also I want you to see how extremely well it goes with everything else, especially the font Francis. So we're just going to make this much smaller. 28 is the font size I'm going for. And now I'm just going to select all of this, copy the text I had from ChatGPT, paste it right here. And now I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller because it seems to be a little bit too big right now. Sometimes a lot of what ChatGPT will give you will just be a lot, like you didn't need a description this physically long. And it's okay to add ellipses at the end or just take some of the text content out, especially because we're just making example text right now. And hopefully when you have actual content to populate, you can just make sure the first image fits the size that you have in mind. Alright, now I'm just going to copy and paste this right here, and we're going to add a description for this particular witch as well. So I'm just going to copy the intriguing descriptions we got generated, and we're just going to drag this down, have this be a little bit bolder, maybe bold italics. And a really, really interesting point that I want to mention here is you have to make an effort to make the description line a little bit bigger, not necessarily bigger than the name of the actual character itself, but a little bit bigger than the description that we're working with. So we're just going to make this slightly more well spaced apart, but also the color needs to be changed as well, because of course we're giving ourselves some contrast over here, and this color is going to be from the color palettes used inside of this page. So this is what that looks like, and you can obviously change this to be a little bit brighter or darker depending on what you're working with. I feel like this blue is a really, really good point to stop, and I can also go in and make this text a little bit smaller now, just so we have enough visual contrast. This is good. Alright, the last thing you need to do when you're working with any component which could potentially fit in any website's UI is have a main call to action button, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to go over here, copy and paste our text once again, change the text to say explore now, because that's exactly what the call to action is going to say. Make this fit the width, right click, frame our selection, and now we're going to add a little bit of padding at the top and bottom, at the right and left. Make the font size a little bit bigger, not the biggest thing in the world, but just a little bit big. And because this specific text is just giving us a little bit of trouble because you have more padding at the bottom than at the top, that's ultimately going to look weird as well. And the best way to often handle this issue is just go inside of here in the text styles inside of Figma, change the vertical trim to say cap height to baseline, and with that everything is going to align perfectly well. Every single overflow that happens is also going to overflow naturally, and it's not going to affect the overall padding of the button itself. And now we're going to add a stroke as well, because you don't want this to be the brightest thing on the page. The brightest thing needs to be our character. In this case, we're going to put this outside, and we're going to get for ourselves this light blue. Again, since gradients are an important part of what we're talking about today, I want to do something really, really interesting. I want to change the stroke to a gradient, and I'm doing this because I feel like that could give us more vivid visual effects. Let's just add a little bit of padding, and we're going to make this thicker as well. Let's cap it at semi-bold. And you can press Alt to see the amount of padding you have with respect to the rest of the page. Right now we have 76, and you can just shift things around until you hit 64, which is exactly where all of the other elements are also staying. In fact, I think we'll have to make a couple of adjustments over here because this segment is kind of going outside. We could make this come back inside. I feel like this does a better job. And now we're going to group this whole thing together. Alright, now we're just going to repeat that over and over again. Let's just get all of these, copy and paste them once again. Press shift, make them smaller, bring them down here, add a layout. Let's make this layout be in a single line, and now we're going to make this frame a group, and that's going to get rid of our layout. And we did that because we just needed it to be lined up perfectly. And now we're going to make this even smaller, bring this right here. Again, we're going to shift this down. We need to make this much smaller than it already is. Give it a little bit of space, put it exactly right here. And now we're going to make tiny little half circle shapes exactly like the ones we've used in the background over here. So we're just going to get this, center it perfectly, shift this above. You can make this bigger if you want to. Now I'm going to go in and copy my rectangle, paste it once again. This rectangle is going to be similar to what we have in the background of all of these. These previews are pretty much accurate. We're going to get rid of the strokes width because it's just too thick right now. This looks good. We'll make this even bigger. And now we'll copy and paste this a bunch of times for all of these. When you're not having a certain element selected, it's normal to get rid of the stroke. So this white stroke is only for the current one which we have selected. Let's just Control Shift G to ungroup this entire thing so we can group all of these together. Select the both of these with your cursor and then Control G groups them together. And I am going to get rid of my stroke now because this isn't the one that is selected. You know what, I'm going to keep the stroke, but we're going to change it to be matching the background of the thing that we're working with. So we'll change this to be much more golden than it already is. Select colors from the face of the actual character and we're going to switch it around so it kind of matches, and we're going to give this a linear gradient. Let's make this color a little bit darker just to match the entire theme, and we're going to keep doing this over and over again for each rectangle that we have. Let's get green, add a gradient, make this gradient uglier. Of course, this works. Check it out, this actually looks good. If you're worried about the stroke right now, don't be, we'll fix it. Let's change this to purple, get a gradient. This looks good. Once again, we're going to go over here, change this to a gradient, change this main color to red, get this to be a darker shade of red. Check it out, this actually looks quite good. Alright, we need to go in now and change our strokes to be lighter variations of the thing we're already doing. So we're just going to make this a light yellow. And we're going to repeat that a bunch of times so these stand out a little bit less. Let's just select this green, make this even lighter. This makes the whole thing blend in very easily. And we're going to repeat this one last time. With that, check it out. We have the 5 of these selected at once. And right now, this is the character that we have selected. And since we have this selected already, there is no need to have this present in this specific UI. But this is the chain we're going to be operating from, and I want to UI. And I'm going to just duplicate these a bunch of times now. Personally, we don't need this one because this is already enlarged and we don't need it for our current dynamic. But we are going to use this as the main group that we copy and paste absolutely everywhere. So we just need to rename these. Let's just make this B for blue, Y for yellow, G for green, P for purple, and R for red. And the actual images have the exact color with them as well. We need to rename all of these to be rectangle because rectangle, let's do rectangle B. Here we'll do rectangle I. We're doing this because Figma Smart Animate only works when you have proper naming conventions in place, and that's exactly why we're doing these to be very, very organized name wise. And now I'm just going to copy and paste this a bunch of times. So we needed 5 in total, and we have 5 now. I'm going to select the both of these, get them out of the frame, get the 3 of these inside, and then we're going to get rid of this one. But before we do that, we'll add an auto layout so everything just snaps into place. Just select all of these at once, add a layout. This is going to make sure we have auto layout enabled for all of them. And then even if we delete something, the spacing won't go awry. So it'll just stay in place and spacing and everything will just match automatically. Alright, now that we have auto layout for all of these, I want to make sure the actual width of the auto layout itself is fixed, and I want the spacing to be auto. And we'll just do that for all of these. And I want this so that the whole width of this container takes the space that it's actually taking. Even if we change the number of elements, the spacing adjusts to fill our width. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. Let's change these to fixed width, auto spacing, fixed width, auto spacing. And one last time, let's do fixed width, auto spacing. Alright, now we'll start getting rid of the one that we're actually doing right now. So this is the blue UI, so we'll get rid of the blue witch. This next one is going to have the golden witch, so we'll get rid of that because we don't need it in the slider itself because it's already selected. Now we'll get rid of the green one, then we'll get rid of the purple one. I feel like we're forgetting to get the group here. Then we'll get rid of the red one. And when that is done, we just need to change these out for the colors and the actual characters. Alright, we'll just select, let's just change out these characters all at once. Alright, now we'll just change our colors because we're doing these one by one. Let's make this golden, and we'll make this a much darker shade of that exact same color. And you can adjust the gradients on your own. Let's switch these out too. And I know it doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but it will start as soon as we change the lighter colors for the highlights. Alright, and now we'll just change out the main highlight colors and this will all start making a lot more sense, hopefully. Let's get these gradients changed, and we'll change this color to be the light yellow that we were using. Now we'll also change this to be the light yellow that we were using and a darker shade from right, and we'll change this also to be the light color that we were using. Just get the green that we've already used once, and I feel like this would do a much easier job for us. Alright, I'll change this to be the lighter green that we just found, and I'll also change this blue to be the green that we were using, and we'll change this to be purple as well. Nope, selecting the rectangle, get a purple. I feel like we should just select it from the dress itself. And now we'll change this color as well. Just get the purple from right here, make it even lighter. You know what? I feel like this is a much better shade. Then change this to be a darker shade of purple. And now I'll also change this one to be the exact same shade of purple that we were using. And we'll change the actual red background to be red itself. Let's make this a little bit lighter because it just feels overpowering now. The last thing we need to do is take care of all of the text that's floating around on the screen, causing a huge mess. And I'm going to go back to ChatGPT and copy and paste all of these names now. Always while pasting things, make sure to paste and match style and not paste things directly to preserve the actual styling from the last time you did this. And with that, I feel like we've completed the entire layout of all of these. And now it's time for the fun part, the one exact part we've been waiting for all along. But before we get into it, let's just make sure all of these replaced ones have been renamed right, because when you just change the image and don't actually drag in a new image and replace the image fill for any container, the name doesn't really get renamed. So we're trying to do that now. Let's try to call this Y for yellow, and we're keeping in line with the naming convention we used for the rest of these. Let's name this B for blue and rectangle B as well. And I'm going to go here now, change this to be G for green, GREEN, rectangle G. Repeat 2 more times. P for purple, rename this to be purple, rectangle. And one last time. R for red, rename this to be red, rectangle R. Alright, now I want to disband this frame, because as long as this frame exists, this character will be outside of the frame, and we want all of these to be treated together so that auto layout can see that these need to be switched around on their own. And we'll just get rid of this layout now. Go here, uncheck this box, and all of the auto layout constraints just get removed automatically. And now we have the rest of these. And now let's just go to prototype mode, add interactions, select this, add an interaction, on click, navigate to destination MacBook Pro 2. When we're doing this, we need to make sure the navigation happens with smart animate. The curve has to be quick and duration has to be 600 milliseconds. And now we'll just repeat this over and over again for all of these. While doing this, the only thing you need to make sure is the smart animate curve quick is preserved. When this is preserved, everything else will flow automatically just like we want it to. Now we'll just repeat this a bunch of times. I feel like we did something here to change this blue to a green, and we'll have to fix it. Let's just fix this right here, right now. Go back to prototyping. And with that, we have all of these connections. Let's just open Flow 1 and see what happens. Alright, now when I click on one of these, we automatically see switched out containers. For Smart Animate to work with these, all of these need to be on the same level of hierarchy. And right now, that's not the case. Right now, this is one container and this is a separate container which is holding the rest of these inside of it. And we want all of these to be on the same level so that they can easily switch around using auto layout. And the way we're going to do that is very, very simple. We're going to get rid of the container that holds all of these automatically. So we'll just press Ctrl+Shift+G, which is going to resolve all of the first layer frame or groups for all of these. What that's going to do is it's going to give us a layout where this, and this are all on the same layer and they don't have any container that's holding them internally. And when they are all on the same layer, Smart Animate can actually see siblings as opposed to daughter members, and it can work with siblings very, very quickly. So when we start animating this now, this is what's going to happen. Check it out, you guys. This is actually a sharp animation and it actually works a little bit quickly, but when it does work, it looks incredible. Check it out. This is absolutely incredible. The UI that we've been waiting for. It has horror, it has colors, it has gradients, it has animations, it has fancy fonts, incredible colors, breathtaking as a UI. This has been the world's easiest witch slider UI in Figma. If you liked what we just did, make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow along for more. You can join my email list in the description to get access to a whole lot of advanced UI UX stuff that we do on this channel, and go check out my site. It's the best community to be a part of if you are a UI UX designer, and I will see you in the next one. Alright, love you, bye.